Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Happy Thursday, guys. I'm going to say it. I say it every Thursday, but what a week with how quickly time tends to fly by, especially when we have all these catalysts. But at the same time, the market's just kind of chopping, right? I mean, the title is, I feel like, very appropriately named today. More crypto chop when volatility. We're going to do our best to answer those questions today, though, guys. I'm Tommy. You also know me as Snorlax. I'm joined by Jackus and Tucker. Hopefully, Max on the second half of this show. But I hope you all have had a great week thus far. Obviously, we are getting towards the tail end of it. I know we were hoping for a little bit more clarity, a little bit more volatility at this point of the week. We have not quite gotten it. Although maybe that changes over the next few days. Obviously, we have had quite a bit of volatility over weekends here, at least if the last few weeks are any indication. But before we can get too deep into kind of how we're reading the charts, how we are interpreting CPI, of course, as well, because I know that yesterday we had a pump from CPI. We also had an ETH staking announcement, which we'll also discuss more on this show. But before we can get more into that, guys, I'm going to need you to smash the like button. If you could do that for us, we would be very, very appreciative. We really have not been, showing soybeans at all this week. We recognize the market has been going a little bit sideways, but as always, we are very appreciative when you do hit that like button and you of course, help our channel continue to grow so we can continue to reach more people and provide this alpha for you. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the charts, though. Let's dive into the markets. Like I said, we did have CPI yesterday. It came in a little bit hot, which of course the market reacted to negatively on the headline. And then did what the market does during every macro event day, where we have some sort of whipsaw throughout the day. The headline kind of has an impulse in either direction, and then we end up backfilling the entire impulse, really any high or low that we set before CPI. And yeah, then I hope the market gives us more of a clear direction, because that's usually what happens. We're kind of back to square one looking at the charts, basically back to pre-CPI levels. Like I said, ETH was kind of the story yesterday. Because we did get the ETH ETF staking announcement. We've kind of been waiting for that, right? I think ETH has been waiting for that. Just a bit of a disappointing reaction. Some of that can be probably attributed to event days. We typically see volatility suppressed after, a macro event. So that probably did not help ETH breakout. But I compared this to something like back in May, right, when we first got that ETF announcement from ETH. May of 2024, ETH gave us a 300 or 400 point 1 hour candle. So the fact that we didn't get that, I will say I did not love for ETH, but I do think over a long period of time, as funny as it is, right, I do think this yield that you can obtain from staking will be attractive to boomers at a certain point through time, right? But ETH still has some work to do, both fundamentally and from a technical perspective. We've talked about these. I won't talk about them ad nauseum today, but we will discuss them on the show. But yeah, so far we've retraced this pump from last night. Altcoins gave a little bit of a move, some of them holding stronger than others. I think the market in general is just very indecisive right now and waiting for more clarity. And as are we. Hopefully we can provide that for you guys, though, on today's show. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about the market, though. Any thoughts on the ETH staking announcement? Any thoughts on CPI, or really anything else that's piquing your interest today, guys?
I like this comment. ETH will make communism great again.
I mean, for those who don't know, Vitalic basically said as much.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I think, it's not great that we retrace the whole thing. Obviously, that does show us it's a pretty decently strong. I mean, we're still going sideways. I don't know if I'd call it a downtrend quite yet, but lose 25.50 and it's a mid time frame downtrend, right? You come down here, something like that.
For me, unless you want to keep cooking, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So for me, right, it's once again what I've been discussing. So obviously, first of all, let's address this tweet. I think, I hope Vitalik didn't mean it in the way he said it, or like his definition of the word is different than what the rest thinks communism means. Hopefully, and I think
Apparently,
anyone,
it was a reference to a blog post he made on like April Fool's Day, but it's just kind of like one of those things where you're just like, Vitalik, brother,
please stop.
please.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I suppose a little bit intelligent autism to some degree. I do not know. I think it's okay. You know, listen, Twitter is sort of this, you know, like a public pub back in the day when men used to hang out in a pub, drink beer, and just, you know, spread their drunk thought on each other. I feel like Twitter has filled this role to some degree in the modern era. But I think it's okay for people to misstep here and there. But obviously, you know, if I think he should address that to some degree. Not that he has to, but obviously, it's not. It's not like, you know. I suppose lots of people who see that with lots of capital are like, I'm not putting my money behind that, you know. At the same time, obviously, it's just one guy. Vitalik is not ETH, fortunately, although he is the main man, obviously, but he is not ETH. And to counter it, we had one of the, probably, in my opinion, the most bullish ETH news in a long while. I cannot recall what is more bullish than this. Longer term, of course, and I'll get to that. And I think this is such a huge topic worth discussing over and over again. And many people hear me say this on either Twitter or BB in the call just an hour ago or something. But this staking ETFs is just complete game changer in a way where people from TradFi, the institutions and boomers, are the wealthiest age group and financial group in the world. You know, they possess the most money, and so lots of these guys will never go and buy, like, you know, crypto directly. Lots of them want to have a exposure through some of their trusted entities, and so to some degree they loved the ETH ETF so far as it was, but not to a full extent. And what I mean with that, you know, we had BTC ETF and we know how much attention that cost. But there is a clear difference between these two, in which, like, it doesn't make much more difference for a guy, for a boomer, if he holds Bitcoin directly or if he holds BTC through an ETF. Yes, there are some fees, but those fees are pretty small compared to the price appreciation. So in that regard, it's, you know, pretty even for those. I think the situation has been different with ETH. Whereas what I mean with that is that, yes, you can hold spot ETFs just as the same, but there is a big difference in that regard, where that if you go and buy actual spot ETH and stake it, you can earn lots of additional yield. So in that regard, it made no sense to be just buyer of spot ETF without the staking, when you can get way more multiples, you know, because these guys are not buying it to hold it or trade it for like a year. They are looking to hold it for 5, 10, 20 years or something. And so that yield is something that definitely interests them, right? And so what I'm trying to say is that so far they had really no incentive to go for that ETF, but they still, which doesn't mean they are not interested in that product, just not in its current form. And by looking at BTC ETFs, we can see that these products are the most wanted. You know, it was the most successful launch in history. So what I think there is also a reason why that didn't come by just yet, because we had Gary Gensler in the office, and I bet you that he would never allow staking ETH ETF to go live. If you guys remember, maybe if you can zoom out a little bit on that ETH ETF news which we had in May, that went by in a very sneaky beaky like situation where the market, like, we knew those proposals were in even by BlackRock, but there was like I do not recall the exact numbers, maybe you guys do, but there was like an 80% chance of decline of that ETF basically until like 2 days prior to the announcement. And it came very sudden. So I think that they did not want to have that staking ETF go in, and instead they applied for like very normal one where you just hold the physical coins without the staking. And this way it was possible to get it done even under Gary Gensler. This way the price was propped up until right now. And I think now with this new administration and new regulatory clarity, I think the staking ETF will finally go through. And that, in my opinion, as it has larger yield than US bond market, that will attract so much liquidity from boomers and institutions over the coming years. And in my opinion, is the number one reason for ETH to finally break out from this range. It's been in since 2021. One last thing, and then you guys can give me your thoughts. But just because this has been announced, we need to understand it's a proposal. It's not a done thing yet, and it will take some time. And in the meantime, the price can fluctuate, and I still think it heads lower first. But longer term, I would say even already by the end of this year, I would be pretty confident. I think the market will appreciate it. But in the meantime, there can be delays, as we have saw with BTC and ETH. But longer term, this is such a bullish news. And so you always need to keep that in mind and not just look at like, hey, we have the last few candles down, so the market doesn't care. I wouldn't say so. I think it will show its in price. Shorter term, we have a bearish trend here, but longer term, this is going to turn around big time. Anyways, I end my rant. Just wanted to state those thoughts, as I think those were the most important one for a long time. But let me know your thoughts, guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree. I think the staking is a big deal. I don't think you're going to get a huge move until it's approved, obviously, because I mean the ETH ETF was announced long before it was approved, right? And you didn't get that move till it was actually approved. But I mean, I think, like you said, we do have a decent chance of getting that approved. I don't know. I think it's still going to take ETH a little bit of time here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna like take this long, but maybe this. I don't know. I think I just think after wicking that hard, like a 30% daily candle wick, it's gonna take more than a week or so to clean up a little bit, right? Like, I think I'm still in the camp that we set a higher low, but I know I'm alone in this panel, at least. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I still think we get like 2400 and have a chance to turn around from there. But yeah, I don't know. I just think we need to give it some time. I mean, I don't think Bitcoin looks bad too either. Like, I think you could maybe revisit range lows down here, but
what if you invert Bitcoin?
Oh no, don't make me do that, Tom.
But I wanted to say on the idea of the staking ETF, I agree with Jackus. I think it's a very significant development. It might not be, as big of a lower time frame catalyst as we saw in May, because obviously in May, nobody was positioned for an ETH ETF to be approved, which is why, an hour after we got that news, ETH was up about 15 to 20%, which for a major is a pretty substantial move. But it is one of those things over a higher time frame that I think is significant, right? It's really not about the yield. Like if you're just thinking about the ETH staking from the standpoint that, boomers can already get 3 or 4% yield while holding an asset that's not nearly as risky as ETH. And you'd be right to say that, but it's not about the yield. It's more about making ETH capital more productive. And that means a few different things. It's not just the yield that you collect. It's also the liquid staking aspect of it, being able to use that ETH to do more productive things while still benefiting from that yield provided from staking and potentially even ETFs. So that's what I would say about my thoughts on ETH staking. I don't think it's a lower time frame catalyst that will have like the same oomph as something that happened in May, but over a long term, this is incredibly bullish for Ethereum and will eventually enable for the tokenization of assets. But getting from step one to step whatever, obviously we're going to have to see those steps in between. But I do think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, most likely. I did invert Bitcoin. Just
what do you think? It looks a bit like it wants to give me a spike higher, to be honest.
It does.
If you were trading it to the long side, like that's kind of a textbook double bottom.
Yeah, like you could argue this was a test pump, right? Potentially. But yeah, I would want to see how it trades into this level, of course, but it's a lot of times banging on the door, It's a lot of times banging on the door right here, which I don't love, but go ahead, Jackus.
Oh, it's really that like what I've been saying basically since the day came, like 9 days ago, is that if first of all, I'm not seeing why we had, it wasn't on BTC. I'm merely talking about ETH here. But why would we have to capitulate to the same level that we have capitulated in August? Like I'm not seeing, like if you wanted to do a capitulation, it should either end it higher above, like a lower time frame capitulation shakeout, or you wanted to capitulate it way deeper than the August drop. Like I do not see a reason to capitulate at the exact same level. And second, if it truly was capitulation and a giant manipulation, then it should be going, it should be seeing a straight recovery, in my opinion. It shouldn't be seeing all of this perma slow bleed that we are seeing right after. Again, as I said, I think the market is heavily bullish going into the next, few, I would say, months from now. Again, regarding the staking ETF, but locally, I still see the price, in this inverse situation bull trending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
it doesn't look.
Things. Wait, what were you gonna say, Tucker?
I was just gonna say, yeah, it doesn't look terrible here.
It's one of those things where the market is always the reaction to the news is always more important than the news itself. The market, if it wants to go higher, is going to use every excuse to go higher. And if it wants to go lower, it's going to ignore positive catalysts, as we've just kind of seen. So I think until you see a regime shift in the way that news is interpreted, I think a lot of that has to do with, I mentioned this in our Discord, the market's just kind of like dopamined out after the last few months. A lot of that has to do with the lack of clarity that has been provided. We know that this administration wants to do all of these positive things for crypto, but they haven't really clarified what that means. We've gotten a lot of vague implications of what they might do, but nothing actually certain. And I think what that's allowed is for the market's expectations to run amok. And now the expectations are basically at the ceiling. So from a headline risk standpoint, there aren't many things that can come across like your Bloomberg terminal and, immediately cause this huge spike in price, because that's kind of the environment that has been created for our coins. I do think in time that will dissipate, but right now it does feel like everybody's kind of had like everybody's dopamine receptors got fried on the Trump pump, and we're all kind of like coming down a bit, like during a party in the morning after.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this was, that kind of happens every time we get a big pump though, right? Like, oh, and we're fried, and we're fried again, and we're fried, just as long as we're stair stepping and we're cooked for a couple months while we range, I don't think that's the end of the world. But
Tucker, Bitcoin's at 95K. Why is everybody so upset?
Tell you why. Tell you why. Because of this chart.
We should look at
others'
BNB.
dominance. Others' dominance is better representation.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, yeah, this thing needs to get back up here quickly. I mean, I don't hate that it's bottoming into this low, but it's just a function of Bitcoin dominance, which is still not looking weak, not looking super weak. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we get 66, but I don't know. I don't know I mean, doesn't look great here, but like locally, but it also doesn't look bad on a higher time frame quite yet. So
it's a slow grind up until proven otherwise. Yeah. But technically speaking, you can see the case for some sort of double top structure here. I just if it happens, it happens. I think calling for it is much different and much harder, demonstrably, over the last 2 or 3 years.
The thing is that even people who were like very bullish on this chart for a long time then got bearish, and then we just saw that another that just happened, which in my opinion shouldn't happen, but it did. And the only time this chart is ready to top is really when that staking ETF goes live. I think that evens the playbook, and suddenly, in my opinion, it's as simple as this. People will be more incentivized to hold the ETH ETF than the BTC one, because you'll get that very nice yield on it, and that to me is like a boomer will not think in terms of what is BTC or ETH. He will see two largest coins. It will be like people sometimes think too sophisticated on the market, but sometimes people do not even know. And I was sharing this yesterday. Like lots of people take their life savings and just start buying Nvidia because they think it's going to go up forever. And they do not even know what PE ratio is or anything like that. So what I'm trying to say is that when a boomer will see two ETFs, he will not care that, if BTC is sound money and is ultra sound money or whatever one is and what is not. He will see two largest cryptos. He will say, hey, they've been around for 10 years both. And yes, ETH has been around for 10 years by now, which is crazy. And then he will say, oh, this offers me staking and the other does not. Wow, I might put more into it. He'll probably buy both, but that's the thing. He will buy both. So
on a relative basis, every buy is going to impact ETH more than it impacts Bitcoin, just from the market cap difference. If you're going to buy both.
Fair take, exactly. And that, in my opinion, when it goes live, is going to be the top of Bitcoin dominance chart. We thought it would be QE, but we know that QE is not coming likely anytime soon. Now, I think it could be this trigger. Maybe it isn't already, maybe, but we will not know until until further notice, I suppose.
I think what the altcoin market needs is somebody from outside of crypto to come in and really disrupt things. I don't know what that looks like, what that means, or who it will be, but I tend to think that's probably going to be what will actually catalyze real change in altcoins, at least from like a price appreciation standpoint, a sustainability of price appreciation rather than just having them being so tethered to liquidity cycles. I do think that will probably occur, but again, I don't know when, I don't know who, and I don't know how, but I do think at some point probably will happen. There will be somebody that comes into spaces and is a real disruptor towards fundamentals, or maybe just towards altcoins. But I think that will be the case. I'd love to talk about the real elephant in the room, guys. One of the more interesting things happening in crypto right now. I mean, everybody has been plastered to their screens trying to be first to, of course, CZ's dog. We finally know, guys, the name of the of his dog. It is Broccoli, apparently. I guess there was some major PvP on that coin already in like the first 20 minutes. But yeah, let's check in on BNB.
Oh,
It was a great 2-day BSC season while it lasted.
yeah.
It was the best and worst of time.
Wow, I didn't know it reclaimed 690 for 20 seconds. I mean, I think, like you said, Jack, is if it can flip this area right here, then it looks pretty good. Like just this whole thing.
Yeah,
but
it needs to accept above, right? Because what I'm worried for, and this is something that is truly confusing about the market, and I think like it must confuse nearly everyone, except people that are always right, I suppose. Is that like you have BNB pumping right now, and it sort of did hint that it could reclaim that area, but it was done on CZ truly bull posting the chain. And I know maybe Tommy knows more about this, but it seems that there's been lots of shilling BNB into this spot selling that's been going on BNB. Maybe you have more info on that. But what I'm trying to say is that this move has been isolated to BNB right now. We do not see ETH nor BTC following up. And whenever you see that, that's not a good sign, because when the market wants to go up, everything wants to go up together, more or less.
The flow on BNB really was so interesting off the lows, man. I was looking at it yesterday. Kind of a mix of
500, bro. Oh my god.
What do you mean?
That's wild.
The meme?
I didn't know it wicked all the way down to 500.
Oh yeah, it's up 50% off the lows at the peak. I mean, somebody started swapping spot and a bunch of perps off the bottom. I think the OI on BNB increased like 30 or 40% in 2 or 3 days, which is always pretty interesting. But and I haven't really been paying attention to it since we traded into the 720s. I guess that'll be something I'll have to check in on after the show. But I can never really make sense of BNB from a derivative standpoint. What I always say, though, and I remember talking about this back in 2023 with you guys, I never short BNB. Why would you ever short BNB? Even if it has pumped the hardest and you think it's a bearish retest ultimately, like you're betting against somebody who holds 2/3 of the supply. And on top of that, BNB is the lowest volatility asset in all of crypto. It's even lower volatility than Bitcoin or ETH. So like what is your risk reward here? You're risking fading the cabal for a reward that's worse than if you were to short Bitcoin and ETH. So for that reason, I am never an advocate for shorting BNB.
I suppose that makes lots of sense.
Somebody asked about this chart. Others minus Tether over Bitcoin.
What?
Like Tether market cap. I mean, if you were going to do this, you'd want to add USDC and you'd want to add DAI and you'd want to add you'd want
Wait,
to add
well,
all the
why?
stable coins. I just typed in the formula that he put in the chat, but
Why would that?
others minus stable coins. Oh, so it's just others over big. So it's trying to hit at others dominance, I think, is really. And
I
it's also
think so
total 3.
too, but I'm thinking like what? Because in others, you basically like the equation doesn't make sense to my sense, because if you have others, which is a index of all coins outside of the top 10, why would you need to reduce USDT or stablecoin, which is already reduced in the outside of top 10 index,
That's right, Jackus. Yeah, yeah.
and then divide it by BTC?
So you'd really just do others over BTC, which is, it's really just this chart. Maybe we could do can you do like total 3 dominance? Is that even a no, really do it? How would you do it though? Total 3.
You would have to probably take the coins in top 10 market cap and plus them together, like for example Sol plus BNB plus.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
So you like type for I think XRP is top 3 right now, so you start XRP. No, not USDT. You type the market cap. Yeah, so you type XRP plus Sol plus let me see what's in there.
Probably.
So you have third is Tether, fourth is XRP, BNB, Sol, Doge, ADA, and Tron. And you exclude USDT, of course, because we are not interested in stablecoin market cap. So right, Sol, BNB, Doge, Tron. Yeah, I think Cardano. You have Cardano? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tron, Doge, Sol, BNB, XRP. Yeah, I think that's it.
So this, and then what divided by?
I do not think you divide it. It's just.
This is just the top 10, no altcoins minus Bitcoin and ETH.
And I think
only.
I think it fits too. The market capitalization of those. So this is basically our top 10 market capitalization outside of except BTC and ETH, which is an interesting chart.
It's up 4x in 2 years. I've never looked at this.
Me neither. We are just, putting this together.
What about BTC over BTC?
Total 4.
There is no total 4.
That will be like the on-chain index in a few years. Will be total 4.
Total 4. Yeah.
Although, how do you even have an on-chain index when like 90% of these coins literally go to 0?
Look at that. Maybe we do have to put this thing in log. Oh my. Okay, so this is the same as ETH, where it topped at this 1414. And basically this would be the next one, is 2 trillion. So pull a 2.5x, almost a little more than a 2x on total 3. When did we get a move like that? Yeah, be pretty similar to August through March of 23 to 24. I mean, that's I don't know. That's where to get wary, Like, I don't think it's to really say like, oh, it could be over up here, I think is more valid than saying, just because we pulled back 35% on total 3, that it's like over, But still BTC. Interesting. Looks like I wanted it to bounce at some point from here. So
can Sol mind share on a relative basis get higher? In the near term, I don't know how it does. Like the president of the United States launched a meme coin. How does Sol take any more relative mind share from Bitcoin and ETH?
Yeah.
I mean, people are seeing that ETH is like a massive catch-up trade. Like even people that don't really pay attention to markets, like as much as we have to, and as much as, our audience pays attention to markets, like I wouldn't say complete normies that know nothing, but people that have any sort of knowledge about crypto, like just talking to a few of my buddies, they're like, ETH is a good buy here. And I'm like, I mean, on a multi-month, yeah, probably, I don't know, but probably, it's a pretty obvious catch-up trade.
I wouldn't even call it a catch-up trade. I would say maybe like we need to view it that the space really didn't produce much except BTC in the last 2 years. And it was really just Sol being the gamble chain, and therefore Sol went up so far, versus ETH has been waiting for that mainstream adoption situation, which I think is coming now. And in that case, it's like 2 different periods for the space where we had, everything running because nothing makes sense and nothing has value and it's all just gamble so far. And that's, representative of this chart. And then the next phase should be we have a new administration that is pro-crypto. It's looking to make US the world crypto hub. We will get regulatory clarity on all things. Staking is coming to ETH, and likely utility is coming back. And that's going to be the next phase. Or I suppose
people will tell you that's not possible, Jackus. I mean, I think like people will say, I always say this, I hate financial nihilism. Make financial nihilism lame again. If you don't believe that we can build anything in crypto, I would say that's persistent. But I also think it's a disservice to what has already kind of been accomplished within crypto. And yes, this is a very speculative industry. There's been a lot of fraud and crime. At the same time, we have developed a lot of, I think, very useful things for people to have control over their own money and finances. Tether, specifically, one of the most innovative things that's come out of crypto. I mean, gives people access to dollars and a storage of value against their native currency. There are so many different things that I could create a laundry list of, so I don't want to get on like a soapbox about that. But I do think that Sol's benefited mostly from kind of like this nihilism that's been bred out of the last cycle, that we can't build anything worth building, that the only things worth speculating, the only utility for crypto is that it's a casino. And I won't deny, that a lot of that is true. But I think that narrative is going to shift over the next few years in time. And I think that because of that, you probably don't see Sol outperform meaningfully for a while until that nihilism starts to return, because only through nihilism can you eventually build, I would say, stronger systems. I don't know if that'll be on ETH or somewhere else, but I would say these are typically pretty normal cycle things that we're seeing from a sentiment standpoint around fundamentals. Like this is the depression phase for fundamental assets in crypto, I would argue, from a sentimental standpoint. And that doesn't mean that it can't get more depressed, but I am not nihilistic enough to believe that the only thing that you can do in crypto is speculate on meme coins.
I absolutely agree. And I think the space just is too big for it to all go back to nothing. Like, I know never say never, but we've never seen this in history. For example, people, and there are lots of people still skeptical towards BTC, that are, like normies. But there's never been an asset of this magnitude that reached 2 trillion and then collapsed, like never in history. So not saying it doesn't happen, but at certain point, certain things get too big to collapse pretty much. And usually when there's so much capital, positive stuff arises from it. And obviously there's going to be lots of unuseful stuff along the way, but that is the cost of innovation. You must try, it's like Thomas Edison. You try thousands of ways to light up that light, and it doesn't work. But then you find it, and it's beneficial for everyone for eternity, basically. And I do not know if like the space finds something like this. I just do believe so, because that's the fundamental repetition that I see from human history. And I think it's just too big. I think memes will always be there, and the speculation. I think that's our nature. But yeah, I think the space will be graduating more towards utility season again.
I think
Maybe
nihilism is great after last cycle, mentally, especially if you got burned by one of the many scams that claim to be fundamentally driven. And I think capital in general wants to be mercenary, largely because of that. And I think that I always say, and I tell this to people I know, like life tends to work in like a pendulum-like fashion. If it swings one way, eventually it's going to swing back the other way. And the longer it takes to swing back, the more momentum it will have behind it. Right now, I think we're in the swing momentum that, it did get burned by fundamentals. It has every right to be skeptical on fundamentals, because most of the fundamentals are actually just, a facade for VC scams. But I do believe that when eventually you go down the rabbit hole too far, you breed a resentment towards this nihilism as well. And I think a lot of people are already there. That will inevitably also, swing back in the other direction towards fundamentals. And I don't know quite what it looks like. I won't claim to have every, every step of the puzzle put together already, but I do think that we will get there eventually.
Indeed. Is Pepe in the Livermore, fellas? It looks like it. It kind of looks like it, doesn't it, Tommy?
Kind of, yeah.
Depends on East, no?
Pepe bottoming here.
Depends on East.
I could see Pepe bottoming here. I could just as easily seeing it give like a multi-month deviation below that support. And I don't think it would change my thesis about Pepe really at all.
There were a few questions on me for if I looked into ETH gold chart. Do you mean like separately, like into ETH and gold, or like is there a pair ratio ETH versus gold? Because I haven't looked at that one. Which I should, I suppose.
Yeah, see if there's a pair. Or I can
There
see if there's a pair.
There is not a tradable pair, but the chart is definitely not looking pleasant right now.
Yeah. I mean, this is where you wanted to see ETH USD come into.
Yeah.
So.
Which once again shows you, right? The capitulation on ETH happened in August. I said this many times. That's when I was buying back in, because that was clear capitulation to me. The market rallied and was ready to go up. Prior, if you look back, we had a great support retest right there in December. That first December drop, if you can draw a line there, Tuck.
Where?
After the December 1st drop. Like we
one
on this, yeah, exactly. You can even extend it to the left side.
Oh, I see.
So you can look at any value chart shift. If you press shift, you do it straight. So you can see that the market was, in my opinion, ready to go back then, but things got postponed. And I once again say that I do not think we needed to capitulate to the same level, which I do not think, obviously, this isn't a tradable pair. It just shows you value. But I think ETH just locally got halted. I think we are having a bigger reset within the space. We see lots of memes trend towards zero. But I think fundamentally ETH is here to stay. And with that staking, it's going to change things. But again, it's not like we just had a proposal, they will have to study it, then they will give their, they'll probably say that something was wrong, they will have to do another proposal, then they'll say something, prolong it, and then I'm not sure when it comes. And I think it's incredibly bullish narrative, but we need to keep in mind that so it was for BTC, and before it came live, there's been lots of shakeouts in between.
Yeah.
I think as well, it makes sense to me that we're seeing, like cyclically speaking, the price action that we've seen on altcoins, because I mean, in previous cycles, what usually happened was people would believe in majors ROI to go significantly higher, right? Because betting on anything else was way too speculative to put your money in, and reasonably expect that your money would return and also not be rugged to zero. Like, I mean, altcoins had a completely different way that they were viewed in previous cycles than the current one. And people, after they got rich on Bitcoin and ETH, would then bridge out and start buying altcoins, would start longing other things. That's usually what would catalyze alt season, as people know it, right? But this cycle was different because, as I've said before, knowledge is vol dampening. That's not my quote. That's from Cem Carson. I'm not claiming it as my own, but I think it's a great quote because knowledge is vol dampening. The more people know about an event, typically the less you're going to get these wild volatility swings because the market has a general expectation of what's coming. And so the market is privy to the idea that inevitably Bitcoin and ETH will rotate into altcoins. So they didn't buy Bitcoin and ETH. They wanted the returns. They went right to altcoins, thinking that they could front run the cyclical rotation into alts. And obviously altcoins have kind of underperformed, I think, largely as a result of that. And I'm not saying that is contributing to the diminishing returns thesis on something like Bitcoin and ETH. But I do think that's probably why altcoins, like, people have expected this alt season to come. But the mental framework to buy alts for this cycle is fundamentally different than previous cycles. And so therefore, I think the timing has to be a bit more complex, because how often does everybody get rich on an event that we all know is coming? The answer is not very often. But I do think, with that said, like, the people calling for alt season are not wrong. They're probably just early. I think we need to see some more of this liquidity come in, buy majors, create that wealth effect, and eventually it will kick back into a much more speculative alt season.
There are some juicy divergences here, fellas. Very, very nice.
I would still stand. Sorry.
Not that we have to go up from here, but go ahead, Jackass.
I would still stand with the fact that divergence matters when it happens at a very important area, which to some degree it is right now, I would say. But I also view it from the context that if you draw the diagonal there over the chart, that what I'm like, the all-time diagonal from the bottom that we have charted many times.
My own log.
Just normal one, pretty much, you can do. Right, and it has served since, even from the prior cycle, like the all-time, even. You can literally go like that. And so In my opinion, once again, this was the line that, led us to alt season in the prior cycle. And has followed it very well. This one too. We had the, small bounce in 2023 when we saw stuff pump. We then had the drop and we came back to the trend line. And my argument here is that we already saw the fake out on the first one, and then we were ready to go, but instead it got halted again. And I think this shouldn't have happened. I think we were ready at that point. That the shakeout I'm talking about happened in November. I think that should not have. That was okay, and we started to go up mid-December, but then we rejected, and that should not have happened. And so my anticipation here is that we likely reject lower again. People give it up, and then it comes. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't,
Of course.
I don't love losing that diagonal either, for sure. Get rid of all that. I mean,
I just think alts are going to take time
mm-hmm.
at this point.
Yeah.
Whether they drop lower or not, I think the inevitability for a lot of these charts is that they need to go sideways to build constructive price action again.
That is exactly my take as well. So I think, I don't know, I feel like there is lots of people, and this has been my argument, right? So, all right, let's jump on that narrative that we saw the big shakeout. This was the capitulation, and we are going to go up. Well, first of all, why haven't we V-shape recovered then, if that was the case? And second, even if that's the case, we will spend some time here accumulating, in my opinion, at the minimum. So I do not think there is need to rush.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, I think, good confluence with the potential volatility death that we're facing like a week or two from now. I know the chop seems like it's already happened, but I promise it probably is not. I think we're going to see volatility come down a lot more. If the move is already completed to the downside, I would say, I mean, that's absolutely a good thing that we see volatility die out. But that's typically what you see marking a bottom, is the complete death of volatility. Look at basically every move that Bitcoin's put in for the last few years. What typically precedes these huge price appreciations are just like your mind is numbed because of how bad the volatility has become in the market and how little price is swinging in both directions. Obviously, last year Bitcoin had a 6-month range. In 2023, we also had a 6-month range. What happened at the end of that huge dump that we had? I think it was was it in July or August? I can't remember, but might have been October, September, maybe. I don't know. Either way, when we went from 31 to 25, I distinctly remember how dead the volatility in that range was. After the FTX nuke, I distinctly remember how dead the volatility was in that range. And again, you can go back even further than that. Look at the 2018 cyclical bottom. I mean, volatility died. That's what you want to see typically to mark a bottom.
Yeah, that's what you want.
So take advantage. Like if you're an active trader, and I'm not saying that everyone is, so if you're not, like, don't force yourself into an unfavorable position. But if you are an active trader and you're not taking advantage of these opportunities, you're going to be kicking yourself here in about probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'd like to see it die on ETH too, the vol, for sure.
Do we have some ETH vol chart?
B vol or whatever.
That's the B vol, but do we have ETH vol?
Tommy?
I don't think we have it on TradingView. I haven't looked at it in a while, honestly. It actually is kind of curling up.
Wait,
the
what
volume
are you looking at?
on ETH
vol is low-key curling up. It looks like it's curling up in a pretty big way.
Is it this or no?
Yes, but you need the price history from pre-2024.
We got a little bit.
Otherwise, you can just find it on BitMEX. But I mean, it's basically been in a down. It was in a downtrend from April 2017 to mid 2023, and it's been kind of slowly grinding up since then. The August dump and then the recent dump, we had spikes on volatility within, it's just kind of like grinding up slowly. I don't know. I think that's kind of loading a big move in volatility.
Mm-hmm. Now,
my body is
crypto vol is different than VIX volatility.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Good. I mean, it's usually just volatility in the most basic sense. I mean, I know this is a drastic oversimplification, but it's like movement away from the mean and how quickly it occurs. Is typically like how it's more or less measured. I know the precise measurements are going to come from things like options and a lot of other derivatives that are much more complex than the way I just explained. But visualizing vol, more or less, that's what it is. And typically what we've seen in crypto is that you get the biggest moves in volatility because moves to the upside naturally can move away from the mean more than a move to the downside, right? I mean, for years, Bitcoin and ETH would go up multiples at a time. Obviously, you can't go down multiples at a time. So usually for a long time, volatility was just a signal in crypto that the market was aggressively ripping. It's not really the same signal as much anymore, but I do still think what's actionable is the fact that you're seeing, it looks like the skew on volatility for ETH is progressively rising. And I would say you're probably going to get a big move here up or down within the next few months with a pretty high level of certainty.
So my Fiat hater is asking you on your thoughts on Vitalic tweet.
I think it was just a joke, a reference to like an article he wrote on April Fools, but he's definitely not helping himself. I will say that.
Sato is live, guys. Sato is live.
What is Sato?
He is long, lovely.
Oh boy. What's
what
his
coin?
Leg? 89.
Oh no.
What do you mean 89?
89K.
Oh dear.
Is his liquidation?
Yeah.
Oh, now I get it. Yeah, that I mean I mean that's exactly like it fits. It fits, you know.
I haven't really, because it used to just be like, everybody just do the opposite of whatever he does. I haven't followed him recently at all, because for a while it quit working. In this range down here, it quit working towards the end. So,
well, because we know that these people are paid by exchanges, and so first of all, they get huge following, people follow them, and they stop making money, and then it becomes consensus to fade them, and suddenly they, it doesn't work either. So
yeah, so I don't know anymore though whether
I feel like that was the case with Scapo as well.
Yeah.
Like people still look like, oh my god, Capo is this or that, and so it's opposite. But I think lately I haven't paid much attention, but I think he wasn't that wrong lately. But I have no idea. I'm just saying, like, even inverse Kramer will get it wrong sometimes.
I like the conspiracy theory that Capo is just a nomad alt that he uses to mess with people. I think that's the funniest outcome. I don't believe that that's the case, but that would be really funny. If the dude behind the Capo account was really just like this giga whale messing with people.
Oh my god. I mean, we joke about it, but how improbable it is that someone is doing this. I'm not saying it's him, but there's a good chance that some whale is playing this way.
You can't rule it out. I mean, I think about how shocking it was when we found out that Danny Sesta, the guy behind Spell, Time Wonderland, was a part of the mafia in the last bear market. I remember that day. It was a random Sunday. I think there was also FUD about USDC. So I'm just sitting here like, what has become of my industry? You can't rule anything out, though. Truly. This space
I
is
mean,
proven, if nothing else, is very unpredictable.
Tommy, just imagine if you like had money on an exchange and you thought it's there, but it really wasn't, and the exchange was using that money to trade on shitcoins. Imagine if that was real. Suddenly it was FTX. And it was real, and it happened. So like what I'm trying to say is, some of these, obviously, we are just joking around, but I think there's a high chance that some exchanges and some whales are doing this. Not all, right? It's not like everyone, there are always people who just gonna come by, get it wrong, something. But I would say that there is some that do it too. And just like by the nature of the game, pretty much.
Well, we know, I mean, we can infer that a lot of these actors within crypto are definitely a little bit suspicious at times, at best, and probably committing outright fraud and crime at worst during other periods. I won't name names, and I'm sure some people that I think are doing it aren't. Some that I think aren't probably are. But yeah, it's like you said, Jack, it's kind of the nature of the beast, and it's really a testament to the people who have survived a long period of time in this industry, because there are a lot of pitfalls along the way. I think the best example of this is, I think I forgot who said it on X, but it's just like, yeah, I mean, you were here since 2013 or 2014. And this is not me, by the way. I have not been here since 2013 or 2014. But it's like, yeah, you've been here for so long. How are you not rich? And I think the counter argument to that is, well, everything was even bigger everything was felt like, or at least the optics of it were an even bigger scam back then. You had exchanges going down all the time. There were a lot of ways that you could potentially lose out. And those same pitfalls are there. They're not quite as pronounced as they were in the past, but a lot of people who like to believe in something end up getting burned in crypto, despite having good intentions. But yeah, it is kind of the nature of the beast at the end of the day. Somebody asked me if I know who Prophet Blue is. He's kind of like the bearish tech dev, right? I don't really have him come up on my feed anymore, but or at least I haven't seen him in a while. But yeah, I would kind of compare him to like the bearish tech dev. Have you guys seen the Great Martise? That dude is a real piece of work.
I have, yeah. Chimp, relax, brother. Relax.
Yeah. Man, you guys crack me up in the comments. But we await movement from the market, though.
Yeah, literally, we're doing nothing right now.
We're kind of just doing this like chop bleed pretty much all week.
Mm-hmm.
I said on yesterday's show, I think if the bear trend is not as strong as I believe, we're going to be backfilling some of those gaps above the range highs. The fact that we keep rejecting, I don't know, is the best sign. But
yeah, I mean, isn't BNB telling the full story right now? Like literally prompt up and look at that rock right now.
Is it still rugging?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What, BNB?
You go on the BNB like 15-minute. Dude.
I mean, that's really the sign of the state, right? Like, I think it was close to reclaiming very decent levels, but it was propped up by its own, by CZ, and I'm not sure you can do it on your own though. Like you need BTC and ETH to comply, and they were surely not complying. And so it seems like this BNB season was fun while it lasted for 2 days.
There was a lot of opportunity in 2 days. Like actually, there was. I mean, if you compare it to like any other L2 that or layer 1 that's not ETH or Sol or Base, it was decent enough opportunity there. I had some friends in the BNB trenches over the last few days. I know the doctor was in there.
Oh,
Of course he was.
Of course he was, bro. Of course he was.
I can get behind being bullish on BSC much more easily than a lot of these other chains anyway. So
you guys, one interesting topic, right? We discussed like ETH and Sol, I suppose, and others. If we see this mainstream adoption basically coming in from this new administration, what other chain they would be building on, if not ETH?
I mean, Base probably.
Base could be the one.
Building like DeFi,
but Base is ETH.
Base is ETH. Yeah,
I don't think they're building DeFi on like any chain that's not ETH personally.
Yeah, like would you go with Sol, which is insanely centralized? Would you go with like Sol is your best alternative indeed, but but would you go with Cardano? You know, like do you think the world is going to build on Cardano from here?
I think there's too much mercenary capital on Sol for DeFi to really be super functional. Because you really kind of need a lot of that capital to stay in place, so that you can continue to borrow and lend and rehypothecate on top of it. This is always what happens within DeFi. It's always what happens within TradFi, but you know, it's the part that people don't want to talk about. But I mean, you do need it for growth in DeFi, right? You need stable and probably like non-mercenary capital, and Sol is the king of mercenary capital. I feel like Sol has a product market fit. It's for speculators.
Yeah.
ETH will eventually, I think, capture the tokenization of asset utility, but I don't know when that's going to be. As I've said, I don't know how long that will take. I do think we get there eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah. But I'm also not gonna like sit here and be like a huge ETH maxi until it happens. I do believe it will happen at some point, and when it does, okay, game on. But again, I don't know when that's going to be. I'm not going to predict when I think it will be. I have some dubious speculations, but yeah.
Meanwhile, we are printing on Chinese stocks.
I know. Dude, I bought Baba 40%, 45% pump, 0 drawdown.
Wow.
Why can't all my coins do this?
Literally, like having so much more fun in stock world. So
meanwhile, the NASDAQ looks incredible too.
Which doesn't mean, listen, we joined this industry for a reason, and I think that reason got postponed, but I do not think it's going away. And I agree that, you know, being on that financial nihilism boat isn't going to do you any good longer term.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, in the meantime, you know,
well, I think people always underestimate the benefit of being in this space for a long period of time. I myself have underestimated this factor. Like, usually it takes time, one, for a market to be able to see a thesis. It takes a minute sometimes, as much as this market would like to think that it efficiently prices everything immediately. That has proven to be not the case, as we have these huge swings back and forth of efficient pricing or way overly efficient pricing, and then very inefficient pricing. So people who have a long-term focus in crypto, though, I continue to notice among my friends, they win the most. The people who are focused on short-term pumps, short-term cycles.
Yeah.
I'm going to differentiate between the people who are able to kind of compartmentalize these short-term cycles as a short-term cycle, rather than like, if I don't make it right now, I'm going to die, or I'm going to have to continue waging, or I'm never going to make it because crypto won't be here. And I'm here to tell you that everybody that I know who has treated this like a 4, 5, 6 year game, they're winning. People who treat this and only focus on these short-term swings, although there's huge opportunity in them and you shouldn't miss out on them just because of this. If you are focused more on long-term, you typically will win here because there's enough opportunity. You're probably going to build enough conviction in the right assets, or even just one, and you'll do well.
Indeed. Yeah. Altcoins are a joke right now. Imagine getting outperformed by gold and Alibaba.
That is true. I mean, Baba is up like 40-50% off the local lows, and altcoins are just like straight down in the same time frame.
But that will change, of course.
It will.
Again, it's like, it comes to the volatility. You need to understand what you're doing here, right? Like these things will go up hundreds of % and then go -7. Like, look at Pepe. Look at freaking Pepe. Put it on the chart, Tucker, right? Put it on the weekly and measure it from the bottom to the current prices. And what you will find out is that Pepe is, just take January, right? Like, just take last year. And to the current price, the price is down 70% from highs, yet still up 1000%. So if you held, that's the problem. People have an attention span of like 1, 2, 3 months. But if you look at the past year, it's up 1000%. You have outperformed gold for the past 12, 15 years in that one single year. But obviously, that comes with the pain of volatility and local swings. So that is not for everyone. Not everyone is able to handle this. But if you are, and you do not have to be that's also the tough part. You do not have to be handling this with all of your equity. You can put 10, 20%, whatever number is right for you into each of these plays, basically, right? But yeah.
I mean, look at those swings. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody gets, angry at altcoins and memes down here. And then everybody's, us included, right? Our geniuses up here, and neither is true, right? Like, it's just the way Pepe trades.
Well, there is one truth, and that is that this market has constantly been going up.
Yeah.
And that's the base case. If you want certainty and slow growth, then gold is the right thing for you. And I'm holding gold myself, and I'm holding Pepe myself. I'm trying to own these things.
Well, coins are like oscillators, right? It's like you said, Jack, is if you want something safe, you're going to be trading something like gold. Just hold index funds that have proven to just go up over time. But crypto coins, you're here because you think they're priced inefficiently, which means you should also assume they're going to be priced inefficiently again in the future. To both the upside and the downside, you need to be aware of that. But yeah, I think people get into crypto wanting to get riches without really any of the baggage that comes with it, right? You wanna make 1000x, but you want to have the peace of mind as if you're holding index funds or gold, and then at some point you got to have a trade-off.
Yeah,
but
no, I feel this is literally to think. Or sometimes people expect you to like tell them literally the coin before the 1000%, and then tell them to sell the literal, top, and then rebuy the literal bottom. But you must understand that, again, if you held in 2024 when it was a good bet, and even if you sold right now, you're still up thousands of percent, right? And that's, again, what is the biggest issue. And the biggest issue is that people go all in with their equity. They do not put money in BTC, they do not put money in stocks, they do not put money in gold, nothing. They go all in their equity, which is usually $500 account from their mom. Then they leverage it to the right and go all in on meme coin, and it works sometimes. They make lots of money, then they round trip it, and usually
We've all
add
been there.
more. We've all
We've
been
all
there,
been
I've been
there.
there. We've all been there. It's nothing wrong with that.
I mean,
But
it's kind of one of those things where you always think you're smarter than the market, or smarter than the market, until it punches you in the mouth. And this market tends to do that every 3 or 4 months, like clockwork. I mean, I remember I found out my hardest lesson when I was first getting started. My first crypto cycle was spring of 2021, right? Altcoin mania. It was amazing. And I ran up multiples. I turned a small amount of money into a lot, and I thought I was a genius. I thought I was a god just because I'd bought beta. But then when the music stopped, my portfolio reflected that, and I learned. Of course, I got better, but yeah, it's not really something that you can learn, I think, without experience. Very few people in this space are able to grasp that concept without, unfortunately, nuking their portfolio at least one time. But it's the nature of the beast.
just to answer Drew's question again, I am long both. I do think I am on the ratio side of things. I'm definitely long more silver. And I'm not sure over the next 12 months, but I know over the next period, the rotation's coming to silver. And it's, once again, you want to hold stable. First of all, I think both goes up in value, so you can't go wrong in that. Second, I think silver goes up more, but even if not, and by any chance it were to underperform gold, which I do not think is going to be the case, but even if, you'll still make money. And I see, but again, silver is like, like we compare meme coin versus gold. So in that regard, silver is going to always be more volatile due to its lower market capitalization and obviously mega trends that precious metals go through. So I cannot say with a guarantee over the next 12 months. I think so, but over the next many years, in which as I said many times, we are in this decade of commodities, and we are seeing that with gold, where gold keeps on rallying. And I heard like so many times by these guys that the top is in because we are overbought, because this or that, and it keeps on rallying, making new highs after new highs, and the top is not in. And so if you want that stability, gold, absolutely. But you need to also understand that at some point you will get outperformed, right? So you need to understand, I need to be okay. Listen, I rather choose the stability, but I know at some point everything will outperform me. That is the cost of the stability, which is more favorable to me. You need to be okay with it, because it will. Or you want that outperformance, but in that case, you must be okay with the fact that you will underperform for some time, and you will see gold rallying more before it comes in. And it's about the patience waiting for it. And I think neither of this is the key thing. I do not think neither of the paths is wrong. And I try to outline to people both ways, and it's up to them to decide and the ratios they want to hold. The 8-year cycle in gold is definitely a thing, which I've seen one guy that I follow mention, and it seems to be working out pretty well. So I'm aware.
The Chinese whale, I know, thinks gold is just getting started. So I will say that he's a pretty good trader as well. But I think that's a good spot to wrap up the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the cook sesh today. We talked about a lot of different things,
Yeah.
I think, but it was
I
a
enjoyed
very
it.
it was a very productive episode, I think. So if you guys also appreciated it, you maybe took away even just one thing that you enjoyed, we'd very much appreciate if you could hit the like button for us. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Market Check to bring you more alpha. But before I can let you run, I'm going to ask you to join the family if you would like. We have a few ways that you can potentially do that, starting with our premium Discord, guys. Come hear from the team every single day through 4 to 5 hours of daily calls, as well as obviously posts about the market as we see it. Sometimes even our positioning. There's a lot of value in that Discord, guys. So come check that out. We were nice enough to package this together with the BB terminal, which can be your go-to tool for this cycle, whether or not you are an active trader trading lower time frames, whether or not you are a long-term investor looking to make more educated decisions over the long term, and soon, whether or not you are an on-chain degen, you love meme coins, AI agents, whatever the newest meta on-chain is, we will soon have the tool for you as well. So check out the BB terminal, guys. I can't guarantee that the price of the terminal is always going to be there, especially as we continue to add functionality to it. So check these out. We were nice enough, like I said, to package these two things together. Of course, if you're looking for your go-to course, your go-to education for this cycle, check out the BB Academy. Learn from the entire team, all of our diverse skill sets, how we approach the market, how we analyze it, and ultimately how we trade it as well. Check that out as well. And finally, but certainly not least, maybe this volatility in the market has been too much. Maybe picking winners has been too difficult. And I say this every day. After all, both of those things have been demonstrably difficult since the start of 2024. Well, we have the option as well for the team to potentially manage money for you if you qualify. A reminder that we trade digital assets in a way that looks to capture their asymmetric history for upside returns, while also, of course, balancing the downside risk posed in any financial market. So if anything that I just said over the last 90 seconds resonated with you, check out the description below. We have everything linked in the in the description of this video. But yeah, Market Check will be back for another episode tomorrow, guys. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, same time as every day, Monday through Friday, whenever the New York Stock Exchange is open. Sometimes we start a little bit closer to 11:15, but regardless, we are here to cook for you every single day. So as always, we appreciate your support. We appreciate when you guys hit the like button for us. And yeah, we're going to keep showing up. But yeah, finally, make sure to check out, it's not live today, but it is live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Check out Market Talk with King Wabi. He does a great job hosting those spaces through the Because Bitcoin X account. So make sure to follow and subscribe to their accounts so you can be notified not just when we schedule those spaces, but also when we go live. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who hit the like button. Thank you to everybody who hits the like button on the way out. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And of course, as always, stay safe.
And be good.